Welcome to Undermined Propaganda, and my name is Lisa. Good afternoon, everybody. It's April 24th, Friday, a little before 4 p.m. I was thinking a lot today about how important it is to make sure that I'm exposing myself to people that here in the United States, specifically where I live, that have retained their empathy and compassion and speak the truth. Go on platforms and speak the truth. In the face of all the propaganda, in the face of the powerful in our society that continue the narrative that specifically concerning the Iran war, that speak the narrative that we are the good guys and they are the bad guys, and what we're doing is just, it's a just war, and it's good for America, and it's good for society, and it's good for the world that we continue to slaughter and attack a nation that did not attack us. And specifically, I saw a show on Arabia English last night that's similar to Piers Morgan, where they have a panel of people that debate a certain topic. And the topic was the Iran war. You know, why we have a ceasefire, kind of who's in control, who's the dominant one in this war, who's winning the war, who's losing the war, what kind of damage that it's causing. And Richard Wolff from Democracy at Work, which I will definitely say you should go watch. It's great. He's a Marxist economist that lives in New York. He was actually from Youngstown, Ohio, and went to school with Janet Yellen. He's a great guy. He's been somebody I've been listening to for years now. He's on the panel, and he's on a panel with a gentleman named Alberto Fernandez, who works for a think tank in Washington, D.C., whose job is to propagate propaganda, to speak about the American empire and how what they're doing is righteous, and about how horrible Iran is and how we should have attacked them, how we're winning the war, how it's good for America, and all those wonderful things that we hear in all the mainstream media and from our leaders here in America. So let's go ahead and take a look at this real quick and see how Richard just lays out the truth in the face of the propaganda. In this part here, the moderator asks, why did Iran decide not to show up for negotiations for the ceasefire a few days ago? And basically say we're not showing up. We don't trust the Americans. We don't believe what they're going to say. And I don't know, why would anybody be surprised that they don't trust us or Israel? 2 different times in the middle of negotiations, we have attacked and killed their negotiators. So again, are we really the good guys? But she asks Miguel, the Neocon here, why Iran didn't show up for negotiations.
Not only had Iran not agreed, they didn't even show up in Islamabad. Alberto, why do you think the ceasefire has been extended? And does it show that perhaps President Trump has a slightly weaker hand than he wants the public to believe?
Well, actually, I think both sides have weaker hands than they think they do. So there's quite a bit of gamesmanship going on, both by the Trump administration and by the Iranian regime. So it's actually, they're both playing this game. The end game is very dangerous, is very, very fraught with all kinds of risks. So
President Trump, though, was always talking tough. He's saying, we're the dominant military power, we've got them where we want them, and he's not interested in extending the ceasefire. And then all of a sudden this. So
well, he has the advantage. He has basically, from his view, is that with the naval blockade, with sanctions, with a regime that suffered supposedly $270 billion worth of damages, if the U.S. just continues to do what it's doing now, it has Iran over a barrel. That's certainly the Americans' perspective. But both sides, as I said, are angling, between who is more patient and who is more desperate. And they're both seeking to communicate that I am the one who's patient and you're the one who's desperate.
Jonathan, does President Trump have Iran over a barrel?
Okay, apparently the Neocon thinks that we have Iran over a barrel and the advantage in this war, and in his opinion, basically winning the war in Iran. Let's see what Richard Wolff has to say.
Yeah, let me jump in. I'm speaking to you from New York City, so I'm in the United States looking at all of this. And what I will tell you is that for us, here, it looks like the Iranians have the cards, they have the dominant position. I won't repeat the arguments that were made already to that effect. I'll just add a couple more. This is a country here which doesn't want an inflation but sees one coming from his policy. Doesn't want a war. This is the first war that I can remember in my lifetime, and I was born and lived and worked in the United States all my life. This is the first war where the majority public opinion is against the war from day one. Not a year or two in when they're exhausted and the horror of it comes home, but right from the beginning. This is a war that the majority of Americans didn't want. And it is important that his own base, which used to include people like Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene and many others, have deserted him, are turning against him, are running against him. The few by-elections we're having are going against him. This is a man who made decisions, above all this one, to attack Iran, that have entrapped him in a way from which he now finds it extremely difficult to escape. Whether you call it a down ramp or anything else, really doesn't matter. He is trapped. There's nothing he can do. That's why he keeps extending these deadlines, saying one thing and another. Last point. We are a country that needs desperately to believe that it is not in a process of decline. And it needs a cheerleading president who is going to take over Greenland and reclaim the Panama Canal and punish the Iranians. This is political theater that the situation, he thinks, demands. But he's taken it far beyond what the population is willing to tolerate.
You were shaking your head there. I mean, is the public against this war? Is President Trump in a pickle?
Well, somehow only America is in a pickle. What will we do? Oh, no. Come on. I see that this discussion is going to be 2 against 1, but I welcome those odds. Look, the overwhelming majority of the president's base supports the president in the war. 90-something% of Republicans, of MAGA Republicans, support the president. I mean, to talk about Tucker Carlson or these marginal figures who become even more marginal over the past few months is distracting. Is the war generally unpopular? Yes. Does it put tensions on the MAGA coalition? Absolutely. But to paint this grim picture as if only America is somehow trapped and in a pickle is quite frankly ridiculous. Iran has absorbed tremendous damage, which if it doesn't get sanctions relief and if it doesn't get hundreds of billions of dollars from somebody, it itself is trapped. Not that there's going to be American regime change or Israeli regime change. It's going to be a regime that maybe will survive, but with a very, very grim, bitter internal reality that it's going to face in the years to come. So this is a regime that desperately needs relief. I would say the risk is, I don't minimize the challenges of Trump. I don't minimize the mistakes of the administration, but the Iranian regime needs a way out. It needs some kind of deal as well. I would say the danger is that it will offer the Trump administration something which will be perhaps good enough to tempt Trump, the deal maker, but that in the long run will not change the reality on the ground. So yes, the Americans have challenges in front of them. I don't minimize them, but this kind of doomy, gloomy situation as if only the United States is somehow in this terrible situation, it is ridiculous. People complain about high prices here, sure, but it's nothing like the high prices of Europe or the Third World or the UK. We're the world's largest oil exporter. The United States waged a war thousands of miles away from its shore, battered a country of 90 million people, and suffered 14 dead, half of them as a result of accidents. That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, but
Yeah, it's remarkable. Real remarkable. We started an illegal war of aggression for no reason other than we don't want to admit we're a declining empire. We were pulled into it by Israel, who wants to dominate that whole region. And we are controlled in a large part by Israel because of all their lobbying and money that they use to buy Congress people and our presidents. And the fact that you say, oh, it's, what did he say? He said it's... Wait a minute. Let's just real quick.
Yeah, I don't minimize the challenges of Trump. I don't minimize the mistakes of the administration. But the Iranian regime needs a way out. It needs some kind of deal as well. I would say the danger is that it will offer the Trump administration something which will be perhaps good enough to tempt Trump, the deal maker, but that in the long run will not change the reality on the ground. So yes, the Americans have challenges in front of them. I don't minimize them, but this kind of doomy, gloomy situation as if only the United States is somehow in this terrible situation, it is ridiculous. People complain about high prices here, sure, but it's nothing like the high prices of Europe or the Third World or the UK. We're the world's largest oil exporter. The United States waged a war thousands of miles away from its shore, battered a country of 90 million people, and suffered 14 dead, half of them as a result of accidents. That's pretty remarkable.
That's the word I was looking for. He calls it remarkable. It's remarkable that we attacked a nation, a sovereign nation, thousands of miles away for no legitimate reason whatsoever, a war of aggression. And we've killed over 3,000, last that I've read, of their civilians. We slaughtered them. And on the first day, we slaughtered 165 schoolgirls. On the first day, school children, more than 165, we double tapped. Remarkable? it's remarkable. See, these people are ghouls. And that's what I was talking to you about when I first started this video, is that how important it is for me. I think it is for all of us to find those voices that still retain their humanity, still retain empathy, still retain their compassion. Because there's so much of hearing this, it can just feel so dark sometimes. Just a complete lack of any compassion for human life whatsoever. Let's go ahead and...
Yeah, but the reason we emphasize the United States is that the world is dominated by this country and has been for 75 years. And one of the ways it's been doing that is militarily. And now we see not just what's going on in Iran, but in the context. The United States lost the war in Vietnam. It lost the war in Iraq. It lost the war in Afghanistan. Now it's losing again. This is a pattern that suggests that there's something really wrong here in the United States. It's not solving
because where is Vietnam today? Vietnam today has cordial relations with the United States. Afghanistan is ruled by the Taliban.
I did not interrupt you. So you can be so kind. Let me finish. I'm sure our hostess here will tell us when we have to be adjusted to one another. So
indeed,
it's important to focus on the United States because of its dominant position in the world. If you can get the United States to stop behaving in the way that it just did and is now, that is a more important event for the world than anything that happens in Iran. That's because of the difference of these two countries in terms of the world. And now, one last point to your issue of the great damage to Iran. Iran has two very important friends. One of them is called Russia, and the other one is called China. And there's a direct passage from China through Russia to Iran. That is not only available to deliver missiles and drones forever, but it is also available to help that country recover, and has already said it will do so. So the cards are not quite the way you laid out. They are not as desperate as we wish they were in this country. Otherwise, they would never have done what they've already done, which is refuse to be overwhelmed by not just the bombing, but the execution of the religious leader of that country. An extraordinary act that the whole world looks at in ways that go to your third person in our conversation, who understands the politics, which includes the religious implications of what you are doing.
We've lost our connection with Jonathan, so we're going to proceed with the both of you, Alberto and Richard, while we get...
And right there, I mean, you got a voice of humanity, of compassion, of empathy that just comes out and lays it out. You know, the world would be a better place if we, the United States empire, would stop what it's doing around the world, because we've killed millions and millions of people over the last 50 years. And for wars like he says here, wars we've lost, wars like Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, and now Iran. And we keep losing these wars, but we keep fighting them because losing wars are profitable. They are profitable to our elite and to the military-industrial complex. We are a declining empire. All the signs show it. And declining empires get more violent as they decline, as Chris Hedges will lay out in any talk you listen to of his. And Richard Wolff does the same. And he comes in and he explains here that we are not holding the cards. We have started an illegal war of aggression that has blown up in our face, and we are causing economic despair around the world. And there are new alliances getting stronger away from us. It's us and Israel, pretty much, at this point, and we are pariahs because we are the ones that are killing innocent civilians and supporting Israel and their genocide in Gaza and their genocide now in Lebanon. And we are the ones that are killing innocent civilians in Iran. So we are an empire in decline. Richard Wolff lays it out, speaks truth there, and it's important for those people that are willing to go on and speak the truth, to get on these platforms, to counteract all this propaganda so we get to hear that other side. And I will continue seeking out the truth tellers, the people that value humanity and compassion and want to speak the truth about the American empire and what we're really doing around the world. And go against this narrative that all these other countries are bad and we're the good guys. Because you know what? Oftentimes, we're the bad guys. All right. I hope you found a little bit of value in that little clip. I recommend watching the entire thing. It's a little bit under an hour. There's a lot of valuable information in there that Richard Wolff lays out about the declining empire of America that nobody wants to admit. Thank you so much for watching. Like, share, subscribe. It is free. And I hope you find some peace in the rest of your day. Thank you so much, guys. I will talk to you later.